I was raised basically in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, technically a town 45 minutes out of the way, but both small towns. I was in Pawhuska a lot. My grandmother lived there. And that's where the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve is located in Oklahoma. And it's it is the largest remnant prairie left in existence on the face of the planet. And, growing up, I don't think I was thinking about it that way. I think my relationship with that ecosystem at that point was just that, it was there. We had a lot of access to it. Even through school, part of our school projects were they'd load you on a bus and they would just dump you out and be like, go find a plot of land that you're going to observe for the next 4 seasons. And but so then being able to see this deep time lineage and relationship through one of my ancestries with this land, because the prairie ecosystem is a man-made environment. It's made through a culmination of time and lots of shifts and changes and collaborations because, with the plates shifting, creating the mountains, created this precipitation, that created then, the ability for grasslands. But Native Americans were really, the indigenous people of this continent were really the people in the middle of the country who were, burning trees and putting fire to land. And I think I'm really interested in that in particular because I think there's a lot of ideas about nature and what nature is. And I think that in kind of the Western mindset or the colonial mindset that came over here, the mindset really seemed to be that we are separate from nature, that we are not a part of it. And that we are somehow given dominion over it as opposed to stewardship with it.
Yeah.
Well, I think kinship it's kind of familial terms, I like it, I think, because one, I hear it a lot in indigenous communities and the communities I was raised in, and I like it because it feels less gender specific. It feels more open. It doesn't feel human centric. And I like it for all of those reasons. It feels like a very expansive view of relationship. I really value emotional intelligence just because I don't think it's something that's taught in Western culture. Again, I feel like there's been all this work to kind of castrate the American public or just really diminish us through these separations, we've been given separation from nature, so that removes people from food sovereignty, that removes them from nutrition, that removes them from being able to take care of themselves. They become more reliant on systems that they're not connected to. Whereas when you were in an early community and you're have that connection to land, there's interdependence, but it's localized.
Yep.
And you're more, you do have more control, as an individual in the collective when it's localized. But so there's been this removal from nature, which then removes us from all these other forms of independence and collective care. And then we've been removed, I think, even from each other, from the collective. We've been given individualism and individual excellence. We've been removed from community and given the nuclear family. And we've been removed from our emotions and given logic.
Yep.
And the reality to me is that all of those things are necessary and you actually can't have one without the other. To be part of the collective, you do have to recognize your individualism because it's your actions that drive what happens collectively. I don't know, it seems like the goal of the American project has been separation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what the public wants, but I do feel like there's been kind of this buy-in that's an unconscious buy-in, and I feel like for me the way out has just been to really kind of reject some of those notions, lean into being emotional. lean into not having logical answers all the time. Like, it's fine to be a feeling entity, you know? Like, to lean into things that, like, make other people uncomfortable. Like, I don't care if people see me talking to plants. Like, if that makes me feel good, it's not harming anyone. That's a fine act, you know? That's a perfectly fine act to be doing in the world. But yeah, I mean, I think just like stillness and emotionalism and listening are really just like doorways back in. And not necessarily like back into nature, but just like maybe even into your own body.
Yeah.
Like maybe even into your own community, maybe even into your own like desire. But even in that, it's like, you know, once you learn certain things, well, then you practice them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the goal, right? I mean, for me, that's what I do.
Make it
like,
alive.
I learn something and then like I practice it, and then it becomes part of my life. And as part of my life, it inherently becomes part of my artwork, because my artwork comes from my life.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from everything that I'm looking at or thinking about or feeling. And I think also, like, you know, I really do use art like as expression. I mean, that's what it is it's like, it's not just like a way to make myself feel better. It's a way for me to understand what's happening. It's a way for me to try and express that outwardly and see if people agree. Or what people think, even if they don't agree. It's just a way to try and, you know, navigate what's happening, like internally and externally, and to try and make connections with people and be excited together if possible. You know, there's a way to still be in touch with like ancestry and with history and with old practices, and I think that that's through renewal. Like, things aren't gonna look how they used to look, and that doesn't have to be something that's like a bad thing. It can be mourned. You know, it can be acknowledged as sorrowful. It can be acknowledged as like something that is lacking or missing, and it can be grieved. But then I think that the next step is like, you know, then what does the new ceremony look like? What does the new practice look like? I think that as humans, we're often like kind of waiting for permission. And in some instances, like, you know, when practices have been passed down for a very, very long time, I think permission is a great thing to get, a great thing to have, you know, like, but I think in instances where it's just like, you know, that connection has been completely severed, like, then what does the new one look like, you know? Like, what is the new connection going to be? And like, how does your practice make it strong? How does it make it so that it actually is like part of renewal and like comes back? And what do you want to bring back? Because, you know, history is rife with a bunch of bullshit, like, to be honest. Like, even within, like, I think my own culture, like, we were a warring people. Like, there's no getting away that just, like, we all have bad history, that we've all, like, you know, come from lineages of violence as much as we come from lineages of great beauty. So I think just, like, choosing, you know, like, we have this great chance to choose. But ceremony and cultural renewal don't have to necessarily be this, like, everybody in the community suddenly started singing, you know? Like, it takes one person to start a song. Like, you're never out of relationship. You're always in it. Like, it's always happening. Like, the art never stops. It's just, like, one long process until it's done. And then it's still not done. Somebody else is doing it, you know? Somebody I've never met, or maybe somebody I knew. Like, it's just, it's fun.